What if I could? What if I could turn back time? I'd make you smile again. And if I could unbreak your heart, and we could start again. Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So, I was reading this article, I read a bit about it, and I thought you've got to wonder what is going through the minds of some of these officers at the Queensland Police Service when they're coming up with these directives, with adding to policy that they've got. I was reading this policy, I thought, wow, it is dangerous. I do agree with the headlines that are coming out and what the LNP and what the Labor government is saying. I think it's dangerous, very dangerous. But you've got to wonder who's coming up with this policy and what is going through their pea brains when they come up with it. They just sit there patting each other on the back, saying, "Oh, this is great." There's no actual thought put into this the change in policy. No thought, no decent thought anyway. They're just so caught up in their own little bubbles and what's directly ahead of them that they can't see. They need to, need to take off the blinders and look around and think a little more rather than just out in their little bubble, like I said. This story is frustrating. I think it's very frustrating. It's and it just shows the lack of thought and just how the Queensland Police Service and a lot of police services around the country and around the world just reactive, not proactive, not really getting out there and working within the community, working for the community. Community policing has gone out the door here in Queensland. It's just reactive and just crazy. Anyway, let's go through this headline. I'll go through this article and give you a couple of or some thoughts that I've got on it. So this headline here from the Courier Mail: Police Commissioner Golshuski unavailable as criticism mounts on dangerous policy. I do agree. I think it is dangerous. So the police commissioner, if you're watching this on video, that's him there. Golshuski got that serious look out of it about him. Anyway, so police commissioner won't say if he will overturn an internal directive with journalists incompatible with QPS values. I'd love to know what these values are that they're incompatible with. In a declarable association policy covering criminals and religious extremists. So for a second day, Commish Steve Golshuski, let's call him Goals, has not responded to questions over the policy, slammed as dangerous and chilling by LNP leader David Crisafulli. Premier Stephen Miles said the directive appearing to force Queensland Police Service staff to disclose out-of-work associations with journalists was unacceptable. Both sides of politics have agreed to have the Commissioner overturn the decision if elected on October 26th. Crikey. On Thursday morning, so the bulletin sent a second request to QPS requesting to know whether Golshuski or Goals intended to quash the directive. A QPS spokesman said the commissioner was unavailable for an interview. There will be a media event next week that he can take questions at, the spokesman said. Okay, so criticism has been mounting over the Declarable Associations policy after a screenshot from an updated QPS training module. The exact date is unclear, showed examples of declarable associations listed for staff. Now, just to make it clear, this policy of having these declarable associations has been around for a long time, but it's just the updated version that everyone's kind of scratching their head over, going, how can you do this? It does seem to me it's all completely reactive, and like I said, I think these people who make these decisions just live in their own little bubble. So here's the list of it. Okay, it says a person suspected of being or known to be engaged in criminal activity, the video states. So a second one, a person who has a criminal history, which can be a little hard to know. I mean, I've known plenty of people, and I have known I have not had any idea that, 10, 20 years previously to me knowing them, they've had criminal history, sometimes even serious criminal history, because they're not out advertising it. They've turned their lives around. So anyway, so going on, it says a person who is a member of a group or organization involved in criminal activity. I wonder if that includes politicians, because plenty of them have been involved in criminal activity, and plenty of police officers are friends with them, especially the high-ranking ones. Going on, a person, group, or organization with extreme political, social, or religious views. And here we have it. I said this was going to happen a while ago when we had the very sad, disgusting shootings of those police officers in Wimbilla. Okay, the way the Queensland Police Service were shaping the narrative of that story, I said back then they are going to start coming after different religious points of views. And here we see it. A person, group, or organization with extreme political, social, or religious views. The issue I have here is, who are these people who are making the decision on what is the extreme view? I mean, my points of view with a lot of with what I believe in the Bible, some people would put down as being extreme, very extreme. Now, there's other things that I would look at and think, for other people who would say that they're Christians, and I would say that their points of view are extreme. But who's standing up there in QPS and deciding what is extreme and what is not extreme? And where do they draw the line? So the second one here, a person associated with any media outlets, journalists, where the association is incompatible with QPS values. This section here, a person associated with any media outlet, journalist, where the association is incompatible with QPS values. So let's go back to the vaccine mandate. If any journalist put out a story, or any media outlet put out a story which didn't support the narrative that the government were putting out, or the narrative that the Queensland Police Service and the Queensland Police Union and the minister, clown Mark Ryan, were putting out, that the vaccine was absolutely necessary, and if you didn't take a vaccine, well, then you were going to kill someone, in your in who was in direct contact with you, you would be the cause of their fatality. If you put out a story which didn't support that argument, which maybe had some science backing up your argument that what their narrative wasn't true, um, does that mean that you're now an enemy of the Queensland Police Service? And where does it end? Where are they going to end with it? So you would be, if you're incompatible, if your values are incompatible with QPS values, if you're writing stories that QPS don't agree with, what happens? Do you get arrested because they don't like your stories? Because you're not putting out a story that's favorable to the police commissioner? Does the media outlet get shut down? Do does hardware, do computers get confiscated? The whole businesses get shut down? Where does it end? Or do we think that this kind of thing could only happen in communist China? Could only happen over in Hong Kong? Or do we think that, do people not realize that this is the start of the slippery slope, where the police services are making these declarations, are making these policies, and setting themselves at odds with the community, all because they don't like the narrative, or they don't like media that aren't supporting their narrative and the stories that they want to put out there. Even though they tell us that they're open and transparent, they're not really open and transparent. And then when a media outlet puts out a story that doesn't support their narrative, that doesn't support their sense of being open and transparent, well, then they'll get shut down. Where is it going to end? Who are the people who are making the decisions about what is an extremist religious view, an extremist political view, or social point of view? Anyway, going on, it says, in response to the backlash, the QPS has responded that it will consider reviewing the policy. On Friday, Housing Minister and Gavin MP Megan Scanlon added her condemnation, saying it's totally unacceptable and you'd expect nothing less of the daughter of a Gold Coast police officer. Wait up. Megan Scanlon. Is this Cheryl Scanlon's daughter? Cheryl Scanlon. Can't say any more about her. Can tell a long winded story about herself, but I'll tell you that much. It's the sign of a good government that we're open to being transparent, and any government agency should be transparent, Minister Scanlon said. I think that the two, police and media, need to work together, and that's why I don't think the decision is the right one. The Queensland Police Union President Shane Pryor declined to comment. Oh, Shane Pryor declined to comment. That's because the police union no longer has a spine. Uh, so, so with a union spokesman saying it was an issue for the commissioner to address. Yeah, who would have thought that Shane Pryor wouldn't comment on something? Anyway, does anyone else think it's absolutely ridiculous that the Queensland Police Service only seems to be reactive, never seems to be proactive? So many areas these days. So instead of getting out and talking to the community, being involved in the community, going back to community policing, they're just being reactive with some different scenarios that have happened in the past, like the Wambella shooting, okay, which was absolutely disgusting, absolutely disgusting. But because of that, and because of the very weird views that these people had, they've gone out and thought, well, we're just going to have this policy about religious, extremist religious points of views. But who's making the decision for what's an extreme point of view, religious view, political view, and what isn't? Who is making that decision? And why are you doing this just out of a reactive motivation? And when it comes to the journalism, isn't that just because of the actions of a few different police officers? I mean, there's police officers out there who are actually married to journalists. So you're just choosing what journalists you want to be, you want to be associated with. So only some journalists. Okay, instead of Queensland Police Service being reactive and drawing up ridiculous policy, dangerous, definitely dangerous policy regarding journalists and or who they believe might be someone or a person or group who has an extremist, what they classify as an extremist religious view. Queensland Police Service need to go back with actually policing the community, serving the community, doing good groundwork policing, and stop with this ridiculous reactive policy and putting out things, having officers come up with these ideas about things that they know nothing about. This is dangerous. You need free speech. You need journalists to come in and hold you accountable. You need journalists to come in and report on the issues and hold your feet to the fire and say, this is so many times over the last couple of years. Oh, no, let's go back over the last 4 or 5 years. The Queensland Police Service have failed. They've failed their own members. They've failed the community. And if journalists aren't allowed to hold the Queensland Police accountable because, if they're deemed, if they're going to come out and say, well, these journalists are incompatible with QPS values, where does it lead to? Does it lead to the arrest of journalists? Does it lead to media outlets, certain media outlets being shut down because they don't, they're not deemed to be compatible with QPS values? Or do we think that this is only the kind of thing that can happen in communist China? This is dangerous. This is definitely dangerous policy. This is extremely poor leadership for goals. Golly, extremely poor leadership. I think we need a change in leadership altogether. We had the change from Katarina Carroll, whatever, we got the new commissioner, but I think there's a lot of other high ranking officers that need to be cleared out within the Queensland Police Service. They need to be looking at officers, inspectors, and up, and if you're not pulling your weight, there needs to be a complete, not just a reshuffle, but a clearing of the decks at the Queensland Police Service and get rid of this dangerous policy where it seems like you're just out to shut down free thought and free speech. Let me know what you think. I would agree this is very dangerous. That's just my opinion. Am I classified as a journalist now or some kind of media outlet? Definitely incompatible with QPS values because I don't agree with a lot of the rubbish that they come up with. If you criticize them, you get shut down. Is that where we're going? Anyway, this is all just my opinion. You let me know what you think. You reckon this is dangerous? Jay Fallon, thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope.
And say it isn't real, and please don't go away. Just give me one more day. What if I could? What if I could turn back time? I'd make you smile again. And if I could unbreak your heart, and we could start again. What if I could? What if I could turn back time? I'd make you smile again. And if I could unbreak your heart, and we could start again. We could start again. We could start again. We could start again.